Hello, welcome to South Today. I'm Sally Taylor. In tonight's programme, protecting their coastline. Armed French police begin patrols on cross-channel ferries in a bid to prevent terrorist attacks. Overtaken and being harassed. The residents who say their new 20-mile-an-hour speed limit is being ignored by motorists.
Drivers come steaming up behind me, flashing their lights, gesticulating at me, not nice ones either.
So as a business, David, I'm going to say that I'm out because I don't see how you can make a lot of money.
The Hampshire businessman who put his head into the dragon's den but didn't lose it. And the young farmers of the future as Countryfile comes to Blenheim.
Thousands have flocked to Blenheim for a taste of the countryside today, and for much of today it has stayed dry. I'll have your full forecast later in the programme.
Armed French police have begun patrols on cross-channel ferries in an attempt to prevent terrorist attacks. Marines have been airlifted onto 2 different vessels sailing from the south coast in the last few days. Talks are reported to be underway between the British and French governments about the possibility of the French being allowed to patrol full crossings. Nikki Mitchell joins me now from our Portsmouth studio. And Nikki, what do these patrols involve?
Well, these are armed marine gendarmes and they're part of a new permanent anti-terrorism unit set up by the French to protect the cross-channel ferry fleet. And the unit's doing so in a highly visible and quite dramatic way. The first of the patrols took place on a ferry which sailed from the harbour here in Portsmouth for Caen on Monday afternoon. The vessel in question was the Mont Saint-Michel. It's operated by Brittany Ferries. Now, the company had been told in advance to make arrangements to receive a patrol during the crossing. Officers dropped to the deck from a hovering helicopter and walked with their guns in amongst the holidaymakers and other passengers who had also been warned.
We made some announcements before the security exercise took place, just telling people that an exercise was going to happen, that was pre-scheduled, not to worry, of course, and also to clear the decks because we had a helicopter arriving above Mont Saint-Michel and 3 armed security guards effectively dropping in and then patrolling the ship. There are some people concerned, understandably, but I think the vast majority of people feel very comforted by the fact that this kind of exercise is taking place.
So, Nikki, can we expect many more patrols like this?
Yes, the French Marines have said that the patrols will be random but regular. Now, this plan by the French is obviously in the wake of the recent terrorist attacks in Nice and elsewhere in Europe. The French police, though, have no jurisdiction in UK territorial waters, which is why we're seeing these airlifts happening mid-channel, while negotiations, of course, continue between the British and French governments.
Well, it's a fairly unusual thing to have public order officials helicoptered onto a ferry, but it's something that is perfectly acceptable under the normal rules concerning the law of the sea. Well, I'm not sure how much good it's actually going to do, but I suppose if it makes people more confident about cross-channel ferry travel, then that's probably the intent behind it.
More confidence perhaps, but also a stark reminder of the threat posed by terrorism. The patrols do, of course, hope, though, to act as a deterrent as well.
Nikki, thanks very much. Well, joining me now in the studio is our transport correspondent, Paul Clifton. So is this something we're going to see more regularly?
Are we going to see armed French sea marshals dropped by helicopter onto every cross-channel ferry as they were last night and on Monday? No, of course, it's not practical, really, is it? As Nikki suggested, the French want a bilateral agreement with the British so that sea marshals can routinely get on board along with all the other passengers and do a round trip via Portsmouth.
I mean, is there a precedent for this? I mean, we're not used to seeing armed men and women on board our ferries.
Fewer than 1% of global terrorism acts are maritime. Very, very unusual. The last plot involving Brittany ferries was in 2007 by Spanish separatists, and that came to nothing. Armed guards are routinely carried on ships off the coast of Africa where they're at risk from from piracy, but a much better comparison is with the air marshals carried on American flights. They're dressed as civilians, in theory hiding in plain sight.
What did Brittany Ferries think of it?
They think it's reassuring for passengers to know there is a security presence. They reckon full military gear and big weapons will be replaced by something more understated. I gather last night on the DFDS ferry from Newhaven, the sea marshals wandered around chatting to the passengers, treated almost like celebrities. Whether that becomes a routine everyday experience for holidaymakers will depend on whether or how quickly agreement can be reached with the British government to let French armed officers operate in British waters.
Paul, thanks very much. Well, our talks are continuing this evening to avoid a 5-day strike on Southern Railway services. They've been taking place for 2 days, but for now the strike is still on. It means that from Monday, thousands of journeys across the south will be disrupted as the long-running dispute over the role of guards continues. Southern has promised to run 60% of its normal timetable, but all these routes will be affected, meaning more misery for commuters. On the line between Brighton and Chichester, services will be significantly reduced and passengers are being warned trains will be extremely busy. Our reporter Sean Killick has been speaking to passengers in Worthing.
This dispute has at times brought services to a standstill and passengers into open revolt. Next week we'll see the longest strike yet, lasting from Monday until Friday. Travellers here today said they've already started making alternative plans.
I don't think I can get to work, so I'll have to work from home, which is fine for me, but for lots of other people that's just not possible. It's really unfair, really unfair.
Who do you blame?
Oh, I think both parties are to blame.
Is it right they should go on strike for a whole week?
I don't think it should be for a whole week because it's people's jobs and stuff that are being stopped and everything like that.
You know, I feel personally that Southern have offered a terrible service and I can't even imagine how they're treating their staff. So, yes, we'll have problems, but, you know, I kind of understand why they might be striking.
I think there should be a guard on the train, so I do agree with that. I just hope they get it sorted.
This dispute is about Southern wanting the driver rather than the conductor to operate train doors. But the union says that's not safe and passengers could get hurt. Southern says conductors will stay. They'll be helping passengers and called onboard supervisors. Unions insist it's important to have conductors overseeing the opening and closing of doors, but the company says drivers already carry out that operation on many rail services and the technology has been deemed safe by regulators. It plans to implement the new roles for conductors on August the 21st, hence the union's most desperate measure yet next week.
We can join Sean live now from Worthing Station. Sean, what's the latest as far as the talks today are concerned?
Well, Sally, I was hoping to be able to bring you the outcome of those talks. They started yesterday. They've been going on all day. They're still going on at the moment. We've been told they're continuing into the evening. At least they've not broken down. But Southern does face 2 other disputes as well. Both drivers and station staff are being balloted over industrial action. So there are troubled times ahead. We will, of course, bring you the outcome of these talks at 10:30 in our bulletin on BBC One. But for now, Sally.
Sean, thanks very much. Meanwhile, a hole has opened under a railway line, causing major travel disruption on Southern Railway this afternoon for the second time in 3 weeks. Lines running into London Bridge Station were shut as a safety measure. Services were cancelled following the discovery of the 50-centimetre wide hole. It comes after a 13-foot deep hole opened in the same area last month. Aggressive overtaking, flashing headlights, sounding horns and rude gestures. A new 20-mile-an-hour speed limit has just been imposed across a number of streets in Reading. It's been supported by the majority of those living there. But as Alan Sinclair reports, drivers who are obeying the new signs and road markings say they've been abused and intimidated by others who are, so far, getting away with ignoring the changes.
Go at 20, the new maximum speed in this part of Reading. You'll likely be flashed by impatient drivers from behind, or worse, dangerously overtaken at speed on the wrong side of the road.
Well, I didn't know it was 20 until the signs appeared.
Susan Pitt is one driver who suffered simply for following the new rules.
Drivers come steaming up behind me, flashing their lights, gesticulating at me, not nice ones either.
By the time the paint goes down and the signs go up, bylaws on a change in road speed are already in place. The rules can be enforced. In practice, there's a short period of grace to allow drivers to get used to the change. The majority of people living in these streets wanted the 20 zone and want drivers to stick to it.
The reality is it does feel slow, but that's just a case of getting used to it. But I've been tailgated, I've had cars flashing me, I've had cars overtaking me in a very sort of inappropriate and impatient way, and a very dangerous way as well.
I think it will bed down. Reading many years ago introduced 20-mile-an-hour speed limits outside schools and was one of the first councils in the country to do that. That's now widely respected, and in the same way people will just get used to seeing the signs and will remember that it's a 20-mile-an-hour zone, and we're quite confident that that will work through and there'll be a real improvement in road safety as a result.
Road safety charity Break has commended Reading's action. It wants a 20 limit on all urban streets.
5 people are killed on the UK's roads every single day. That's 5 people who left for work, school, college this morning who are simply never going to return home to their families again. We know that 20-mile-an-hour limits save lives. It makes no sense not to bring them in.
Councillors are already considering introducing 20 zones in other parts of town. Alan Sinclair, BBC South Today, Reading.
A man has been charged with failing to stop at the scene of a collision after a cyclist died in a crash in Hampshire. Brian Tozer was found lying in the road by a passing motorist after being struck by a vehicle in Andover in March. He later died in hospital. 28-year-old Michael O'Shea from Andover is due before magistrates later this week. Children hurt when an inflatable slide broke from its moorings at a carnival in Dorset have been discharged from hospital. The slide, set up at the Swanage Carnival, came loose on Wednesday. Police said 9 children were treated at the scene. Some were taken to hospital. The Health and Safety Executive is now investigating. Stay with us because later we join Sarah Farmer at Blenheim, and Tony's looking ahead to the big event in Rio.
Certainly am. It's getting closer, isn't it? We'll hear from the Great Britain hockey squad and hit the water with canoe sprinter Liam Heath. 24 hours ahead of the Games, our athletes are daring to dream.
Well, it's the chance of a lifetime for any entrepreneur. So when David Overton from Eastleigh appeared on Dragon's Den, this was the last thing he wanted to hear.
I'm sitting here thinking in a minute he's going to say something that is going to explain to me why it's worth £400,000. I just want to know what you've got that's absolutely amazing, that supports any kind of valuation at all, really.
You might have thought it was all over, but the story didn't end there, because a chance encounter on a train led to David finding a kindly dragon of his own from right here in the south. Our business correspondent Alistair Fee picks up the story.
Looking for a £60,000 investment in return for a 15% share in his Hampshire business.
My name's David Overton, and I'm MD of the award-winning fabric map business SplashMaps.
His idea, waterproof maps for outdoor enthusiasts, has been a success. The company has turned over £35,000 in the last year.
We are unique in that we provide these maps that are printed onto weatherproof fabric.
It was soon apparent that the dragons weren't convinced.
Is this a scarf? What is this?
Is this on poly or is it on silk?
That's on a satin, that one.
It's nothing that Ordnance Survey couldn't do for themselves.
And so, one by one...
I'm out. I'm afraid I'm out.
I won't be investing, I'm sorry.
I'm going to say that I'm out.
I can't invest and I'm out.
There's definitely a heart-sinking moment, and I had one dragon in mind, and when that one went, I actually said that's awful, and I don't think anyone's done that on Dragon's Den before, but that was straight from the heart.
It was awful.
It was awful, yeah.
But the story doesn't end here. Just days after being turned away on television, David seals a deal with someone you could call a Dorset dragon, thanks to a chance encounter.
I got the phone call from Lush, and they said Mark Constantine wants to have a meeting with you.
And did that come as a surprise?
That did come as a surprise. You know, I knew who he was once the context was put there, and someone told me that I'd met him on a train, so that helped me to put 2 and 2 together.
Within weeks, Lush, the Paul-based cosmetics company, was selling maps of city centres as a novel wrapping for their own products.
I think what they missed when they spoke to him was the man. Normally the dragons spot the man.
and they didn't spot it in this case. Obviously, Dragon's Den has a very set format, and it requires the dragons to have a very blinkered view. It isn't the way we do business normally, and to be honest, a chance encounter on a train is much more informal, much more genuine, going to get you a much better result.
It actually means a heap more than the dragons in actual fact, because here's a guy that's buying your product because he believes in it. He knows he can put it alongside his own products, in which he's invested a hell of a lot of heart and heartache, etc. And he knows that he can make a good profit to the benefit of all of us and help us to become an ethical business like his own business as well.
Of an initial order of 1,800 maps, a third have sold, and both businesses plan further collaborations. Having been turned away, on this occasion it's David, not the dragons, who has come out on top. Alistair Fee, BBC South Today.
Good luck to David Overton. West Dorset MP Oliver Letwin is to receive a knighthood following David Cameron's departing honours list. The former policy minister has been awarded the honour for political and public service. And the Arundel South Downs MP Nick Herbert will receive a CBE following today's announcement. They say they lost everything when a large industrial fire destroyed carnival floats on the Isle of Wight back in January. But in the next half hour, the 120th Cowes Carnival will get underway, complete with the rebuilt floats that were destroyed. Our reporter Frankie Peck has been on the island as the final preparations were being made for the procession.
Just 7 months ago, the Cowes Carnival organisers thought tonight might not happen. In January, there was a terrible fire at the Medina Village Industrial Estate. Many businesses were destroyed, including all the hard work of the Carnival team. Joining me now, I've got Paddy. Paddy, did you think today might not happen?
I think everybody thought it wasn't going to happen this year, but the committee, Cowes Carnival Committee, got a real good, strong team behind them. The local people have got involved as well with many donations. There's been a quiz night held by Newport St George's Park Football Club, and everybody's pulled together. Here we are. The traffic management's all in place. We're ready to go.
And we've got Julian here as well. Julian, you got involved on that quiz night, I believe, and you're the reason why this float is here. How was it creating the float?
Well, I just did the back bit really, so it was it was interesting, and I was sort of asked if I would like to lend a hand, of course, which I did, and so produced the original little piece out of clay, and then it's put together with polystyrene, sheets of polystyrene which are glued together, and then carved out and scaled up. There's your result.
And here we are. Lovely. Thanks very much. The procession will begin at 7 o'clock tonight.
And let's hope it goes really well, staying dry at least. We'll have the weather from Sarah Farm a little later in the programme. Now, I think it's fair to say it's the greatest show on earth, and it all begins tomorrow in Rio. And Tony, the athletes are, well, still arriving at their new look village, aren't they?
Many of them jetting in, and of course we see this scenic view, and doesn't it look lovely?
It looks fabulous.
But we hear a lot, of course, about just actually the preparations that Rio has had to undergo and the difficulties they've had. But many of our athletes are actually saying that the village itself, very impressive. They're very happy with it. The British athletes, including those from the south, have been continuing to arrive in Rio. Many, but not all, will attend tomorrow's opening ceremony at the Maracanã due to competition schedules. Team GB tweeted this picture of the women's sprint canoe team, including Rachel Cawthorne there on the left from Guildford. They were relaxing in the sun before the competition starts. It's a first games for golf. Hampshire's Justin Rose was getting on a plane this morning, and there's his GB branded golf bag. And Reading diver Chris Mears was quick to pose for a selfie with the Rio Olympic mascot. We'll be following them, of course, as the competition gets fully underway on Saturday. Now, among those who will be involved on the opening weekend of action is Hampshire hockey star Alex Danson. This is Alex's third Olympic Games. She's impressed with the village, and the team are following a well-planned routine.
We used our first kind of 2 or 3 days in the village very much as a familiarisation, so to find out where the dining hall is and where all the food is that we need, to have a look at casual dining, to go to the international zone, and, you know, have a look at all the special things that come with Olympic Village. But then after 2 or 3 days, kind of that's it. We know where everything is, we know what our jobs are, and then it's very much focus. It's preparation time.
Now, Britain's sprint canoeists have high hopes. The reigning Olympic champion Ed McKeever failed to qualify, though, as he was beaten in trials by Liam Heath of Guildford, who'll race in the two-man event, K2 Sprint with Johnny Schofield, and as an individual in the K1 200 metres, where he took gold in the European Championships. Now, that's despite the two-man event being his specialty, and only having raced in the K1 on a handful of occasions.
To be able to get out in my K1 has been absolutely brilliant, and I seem to be going quite well again. The training seems to be working, and the final preparations are very good as well. So, yeah, kind of looking forward to getting out and seeing what I can do.
We'll have a lot more from Rio as we look ahead to the Olympic Games, and we'll be live in Brazil tomorrow night. But, of course, as the screen changes, we know we have the football season all set to get underway tomorrow night as well. And one of the Premier League's most feared defenders is the face of Reading Football Club as the Royals prepare to start their Football League, or EFL season as it's now known. They're up against Preston in the Championship at the Medeski Stadium. Former Manchester United centre-half Jaap Stam replaced the sacked Brian McDermott this summer. He's overseen another period of change up in Berkshire. Late last night, midfielder Oliver Norwood joined Brighton, a 3-year deal. So what are the Royals' prospects this season? Well, Nicky Mitchell has our latest football preview.
Of their 7 new signings, Roy Birrens, Joey Vandenberg and John Swift made the starting 11 in the Royals' final pre-season friendly against Bournemouth last week. Also very much in the spotlight, Reading's new manager. The former Dutch and Manchester United defender didn't stay in the dugout for long. Jaap Stam is a man who manages on his feet.
Of course, well, as a former player, you want to play yourself, but you can't do that. You know, you need to help the players out. You want to tell them what to do. Of course, you know, it's not always possible because you can't reach everybody on the pitch. You know, but that's the way how I coach and want to help the players. And you want to keep them on their toes. You want to keep them sharp in performing.
Fans relished a rare opportunity to see Jaap Stam in action during the club's first open training session.
Having known Jaap Stam when I was growing up, watching him play football and the management that he's been under, what more can you want? I think there's a lot more upbeat about the team this season.
Play interesting football, that's what we've been dying for. And he was always a player feared, so hopefully manager-wise he is as well.
Very pleased watching him here this morning. Seems to be very involved with the players, so yeah, I think it'll be good for us.
Good luck for a good season.
Thank you.
The confidence Stam exudes, though, is tempered by a realism which will surprise many loyal Royals.
But 3 years now with no sniff at the top 6.
Yeah, but well, you can't expect us this season to end up in the top 6. You know, if you look at the competition, if you look at the league, the teams who are playing in the league, it's going to be very hard to be even in the top 10. So we're just concentrating and focusing ourselves on performing and doing well every game. You know, growing in the style of playing how we want to, and eventually getting results and winning games as well. And you know, I think everybody needs to get used to the new technical staff, to the way of playing. So it's not going that quick. You know, you need to have a bit of patience as well.
Patience indeed, particularly with the club's latest signing, left-footer Yaku Mata still working up match fitness. A new striker, Joseph Mendes, among those on the injury list. Nicky Mitchell, BBC South Today.
I mentioned Oliver Norwood going to Brighton. That happened late last night, and we'll touch on the Albion's prospects for the season in tomorrow evening's programme. Other transfer news coming out of the Medeski today, though, Stam admitting that talks are continuing to bring the Leicester defender Liam Moore to the club. Meanwhile, in League One, Swindon Town fans have seen more players leave the club this summer, including striker Nicky Ajose, who joined Charlton. The Robins finished 16th last season. They have head coach Luke Williams in charge going into the new campaign, working under the chairman Lee Power there on the right-hand side. Edwards has urged caution in the transfer market ahead of their opening game against Coventry this Saturday. It really is a stellar time for sport. We have the EFL, as we call it now.
I know, this is new, isn't it?
That starts here tomorrow night. And then we have the Premier League starting a week after.
And the Olympics.
All along. We have the Olympic Games
Looking
as well,
forward to a
so
weekend.
Very busy time.
OK, now they're bringing the best of the countryside to the grounds of Blenheim Palace.
The incredibly popular BBC TV show Countryfile is hosting its first live event with farm animals, hundreds of exhibitors and a touch of showbiz.
Yeah, touch of showbiz because Sarah Farmer went along to join the crowds.
Well, day one of the Countryfile live event, and it's proving pretty popular already. Still tallying up the numbers, but they're hoping to see 20,000 people through the doors each day. There's all sorts here: sheep shearing, milking of the cows. You can see we've got some fresh milk in there. Still actually a little on the warm side, and all sorts of craft that's come from the countryside. Lots going on. I'm joined by Countryfile presenter Charlotte Smith. Charlotte, what a huge event. Proud to be a part of.
Amazed, frankly, to be a part of it. It's like a Countryfile programme, but in 3D. So you've got the animals, we've got farmers here, all with lovely t-shirts on, and they're all volunteers, and they've all come just to talk to people about what they do and why they do it. We've got serious discussions about things like fracking in the National Trust Theatre. We've got music that you might just be able to hear in the background, and there's plenty to eat. But do wear comfortable shoes because it's huge.
Excellent advice. And the cows are being very well behaved as well. We must just introduce you very quickly. This is Gold and this is Nora, and they're eating their cake and being very good indeed.
There was good fun actually there. It's going to be really good. Now, you've sent some lovely weather pictures today, as always. Let's have a look at a couple of them. This is the River Stour at Blandford in Dorset. Thank you very much, Tony Gaffney.
And Ali Lansley took this picture in Patrick's Patch in Bewley.
OK, let's get the forecast now with Sarah.
Thank you, Sally. Well, things are winding down here on site today, but much of today has been pretty dry. We can take a look at the satellite picture from a little bit earlier on today, and we've had some patchy cloud coming and going, some sunny spells here and there. One or two showers have been around as well, but many of us actually have escaped them altogether. There were just one or two downpours in the mix too. And through the course of this evening, we'll start to see those showers easing and fading away, so becoming dry through the overnight period. And temperatures tonight holding out at around 13 or 14 degrees, so probably quite a mild night once again. Now, into first thing tomorrow morning, we get off to a decent start. It will feel pretty warm really first thing, some sunny spells to enjoy, and we will stay largely dry through much of the day, not quite as breezy as it has been by day today. We will see one or two showers here and there, but a few of them there will be hit and miss, so many of us once again escaping with a dry day. And in the sunshine, feeling really quite pleasant. Those temperatures could creep up to 21, maybe 22 degrees, maybe even a touch higher. So feeling pleasantly warm in that sunshine. I think we will start to see that high pressure staying put through the remainder of this weekend into next weekend, into this weekend rather, as well. So as we take a look to tomorrow night, if there are one or two showers, they'll clear through, and it's a dry night with temperatures at around 13 degrees once more. Now, that ridge of high pressure that I talked about stays with us into Saturday, so we stick with the settled conditions to start the weekend. We'll have some sunny spells to start Saturday, the cloud increasing, perhaps some low cloud and misty, murky conditions developing for coastal areas and to higher ground. Sunday, it looks like we'll see some good brightness early on, and then the cloud building with some spits and spots and patchy light rain later, becoming breezy by Monday.
Sarah, thank you very much. It does look good there, doesn't it? Wonderful.
Very nice.
Just to let you know that those Southern Railway talks going on with the unions, well, they're going to resume tomorrow. We'll have the latest for you then. Thanks for watching tonight. Good night.
Good night.